Hi class, and welcome to a lecture from Dr. Jimmy Red. This time we are going to be talking about the ancient Indian epic, the Ramayana, a famous story of a young prince who is exiled and forced to endure many austerities in the Indian wilderness. Uh, it's a famous story. One of the most famous stories of all time, and even today is still retold time and time again. But there are a lot of things we need to understand if you're coming from a Western standpoint in order to really comprehend the story. So this lecture is aimed at helping you to understand the context behind the story, the basic plot of the story, as well as begin to introduce you to many of the key characters and a lot of key terms that you need to know in order to understand this story. So here are some texts surrounding the Ramayana. The Ramayana is an ancient Indian text. It's one of the most famous tales in the world, even today. The earliest versions of the Ramayana may have emerged around the 6th or 5th century BCE, but it has continued to be adapted throughout the ages with many different variations, including modern TV series. In India today, most people will know the story of the Ramayana. It's told at bedtime to many kids in the same way in Western traditions many biblical stories are told to kids or folk tales. It's the same way in India even today. Valmiki is the reputed author of the primary story, but he, like Homer, the author of the Odyssey, may be mythical. Understanding the story depends much on understanding Hindu beliefs, especially the idea of reincarnations of Vishnu, the idea of karma, and the idea of dharma, and I'll be introducing you to each of those terms as we move through this lecture. The story is an epic telling of the story of Rama. He is the hero of the story. He is thought to be an embodiment of the Hindu god Vishnu. Rama is meant to represent ideal righteousness in many aspects, yet he's faced with many obstacles, and he endures much suffering as well. He, like Odysseus, suffers much in order during his quest before he can take his rightful place on the throne next to his ideal wife, Sita. So I'm going to give you a little summary of the stories that we're going to be reading and I'm going to be discussing in this lecture series. The story of the Ramayana is, in most renditions, divided into 7 sections, and these sections are called kands or khandas. So we'll be reading a modern retelling by N.K. Narayan, which summarizes important scenes from Rama's journey. But if you don't have this text, you can read another free online version at that link there. If you want to purchase, or if you're in one of my classes, you should have already purchased the other version. I think it's the easiest and most accessible version to read. It's also much shorter than any other version. You can find on Amazon the N.K. Narayan version. It's a shortened modern prose version of the Indian epic published by Penguin Classics. And I'm going to be referencing page numbers from that one. If you want to, you can purchase that version. It's pretty cheap. My version costs 16 bucks. I would suggest getting that one because it's really the easiest version to read by far. But if you don't, you can also follow along on that online text right there. And I'll be referencing page numbers from the Narayan text, but I try to make it accessible to folks who are reading the online version as well. Okay, so we start off, the stories we're going to read are going to start talking about Rama's childhood. And this is from the Bala Khanda if you're reading the online text. If you're not, then it's from the section called the Prologue in the Narayan text, or the Rama's initiation. And this is going to include the circumstances of his birth. We're going to learn about his coming of age through a test with the sage Viswamitra, that's how you say that name, and his marriage to his wife Sita, that's how you say that name as well. If you need help with pronouncing characters' names, help is available in the Narayan text. Before you get to the prologue, it shows you how to pronounce all these characters' names. So we'll then read about the two promises revived. That's the name of the chapter in the Narayan version. We'll learn of King Dasaratha, who is Rama's father, and he made two promises to his wife Kaikeyi. And these promises lead to Rama not being crowned king and his being sentenced to exile, which is the basic conflict or problem that Rama faces and has to resolve in this story. In the online text, that's the Ayodhya Kanda, or the second section of the work. We will learn about some of his encounters in exile, which is in the online text, the Aranya Kanda, where he, along with his brother and protector Lakshmana and Rama's dutiful wife Sita, face awful monsters named Shurpanyaka and another one named Marika. And we see the ultimate antagonist of the work, Ravana, and that's in the Grand Tormentor chapter in the Narayan version. Sita is captured, that's Rama's wife, by the demon Ravana, or known as an Asura. This sets the stage for Rama's great quest to recover her, which we'll be talking about in the second lecture on the Ramayana. Next, we'll read portions from the Narayan retelling from the Vali chapter, and when the rains cease. All of this is in the second lecture. We'll be in the land of the 8 men, known as Vanaras, where Rama meets his famous monkey friend Hanuman, and he gets entangled in a struggle for power between two monkey kings, Sugriva and Vali. This is his famous controversial misstep. It's from his Kishkinda Kanda, if you're reading the online text. Finally, we'll read portions of the interlude, the coronation, and the epilogue, and this is from the Yuja Kanda, if you're reading online. I list the chapters there in the Narayan section as well, where the battle between Rama and Ravana is decided, and Sita is returned to him, but she must be tested by fire to prove her purity. Rama is then crowned king with Sita his queen, and this is from the online text Uttarakhanda. All right, so let me introduce you to some of the key characters in the Ramayana. We have Rama. He is the hero of the Ramayana. He is the dutiful son of Dasaratha. He is also going to be crowned king at the end of this work. He is a dutiful husband to Sita. He is the embodiment of righteousness, and he is the incarnation of Vishnu. He is a god and protector of mankind. Yet he does have his missteps that we'll read about in the relationship between Sugriva and Vali. Sita is another key character. She is the heroine of the Ramayana, mainly because of her dutiful devotion to her husband and refusal to sleep with Ravana. Ravana is the leader of the Asuras, evil demons, and he is the key antagonist of this work. Hanuman is a famous monkey man who is devoted to Rama. He is the military leader of the Vanaras, who are a monkey people. We also have Lakshmana, who is the dutiful brother and devotee of Rama. We have Dasaratha. He is the father of Rama. He is a good king who was without male heir before Rama was born. Other key characters to note are Kausalya and Kaikeyi. These are both wives of Dasaratha. We also have Kuni, who is an evil hunchback who turns Kaikeyi and gives awful advice to her. We have Bharata, who is another one of Dasaratha's sons and the son of Kaikeyi, who is basically he is king in place of Rama while he is gone, but he is representative of a person who is attentive to his duty. He refuses to accept the crown. Uh, he doesn't want to accept the crown, so he's just ruling in place of Rama while he's gone. We have demons Sorpanaka as well. We have the sage Viswamitra. We have the heroic eagle Jatayu. We have this confrontation between Vali and Sugriva over their throne of the monkey people. And we also have Gautama. So you need to know a few key terms. And you need to be aware of some Hindu gods if you aren't familiar with Hindu religion. The creator god of the Hindu religion is Brahma. Two of the most important gods in Hindu religion is Vishnu and Shiva. Vishnu is a protector or preserver god. He is born as a human in Rama in order to destroy the evil Ravana, because Ravana cannot be destroyed by the gods. Shiva is a destructive god, but has good qualities too, because destruction allows for creation and transformation. Indra, he appears briefly in this story. He is often a heroic god, but among the gods, he's most prone to wanton pleasures, and we'll see this in his lust in a story that we're going to read. Asuras, these are demons like Ravana, who is the leader of them, who are evil in this epic, although in India they are sometimes worshipped and not seen as evil. But in this story they are. Some terms to know. You'll see this term yagna. This is a religious ritual or a sacrifice. Dasarata has to undergo a yagna in order to have Rama be born to him. Karma. This term is mentioned time and time again and is central to basically all the decisions that happen in the work. This is similar to the concept of you reap what you sow in Western thought. If you do bad things, you're going to receive bad things in consequence. If you do good things, you're going to be rewarded. Dharma. This is absolutely essential to basically every decision that's going on in this work. People who make decisions that go against their dharma reap bad results. People who make decisions that go along with their dharma reap good results. And dharma is one's duty, which is a religious requirement in Hinduism. And so one has a duty depending upon their position. So if you are a son, you have a duty to your father. If you are a son, you have a duty to your mother. If you are a wife, you have a duty to your son or daughter. If you are a wife, you have a duty to your father. If you're a king, you have a duty to your subjects, and so on. We're going to see all people have a certain dharma. And the work is also going to resolve like ethical issues in relation to dharma. Another key concept is detachment or renunciation. This is the idea that one should feel detached or renounce the things of this world, especially physical pleasures that are transient or change or will go away. One should align oneself with the eternal things like dharma and duty instead. We also see the idea of reincarnation. This is a belief in the cyclical nature of the universe. In Western philosophy, we see things as going along a line. You're born and then you die. These things don't recur again. But in Hinduism, they believe that once you die, you're born again. Once you are born, you're going to eventually die. This is the idea of reincarnation, that the world is cyclical. It continues to undergo continuous change. It never ends. There's never a point where it ends. For every ending, there is a new beginning. Other things to know and key themes, places to know. We'll see the places Kosola or Ayodhya. This is the kingdom of Rama and the city of Rama. It is ruled by his father, Dasarata, And then after his father dies, Bharata rules in Rama's stead. And finally, at the end of the Ramayana, it is ruled by Rama, who is an ideal leader. Lanka. This is the land of the demons, ruled by Ravana and eventually conquered by Rama. Key themes: dharma, karma, duty, which is synonymous with dharma, renunciation, detachment, the harmful effects of desire, and the need to protect. So these are the readings that you're going to do for this section in relation to this particular lecture. I want you, if you're reading from the Narayan text, I want you to read pages 3 through 22, or pages 33 through 61. This includes the sections from that translation, the prologue, Rama's initiation, and the two promises revived. You'll skip the wedding chapter. An alternative reading, Narayan's book is much easier and a shorter translation to read, but if you don't have your book because of circumstances related to the coronavirus response, or if you're reading online for the YouTube, if you just see this lecture online on YouTube, then you can use that link right there. And if you use that link, you'll notice that there are two page numbers. There's one at the top in the book itself, and there's one at the bottom where you flip through the pages. And so I'm going to be listing page numbers as like 1/2. So that first number relates to the number you'll see up at the top in the book itself, and that second number relates to the page number you'll see at the bottom if you're scrolling through the book in the online reader. So I hope that's not too confusing. The readings you need to do include, this will be from the Bala Khanda, or the first section of the work. You'll read pages 3/10 through 5/12. So that's about 2 pages right there. And you'll also see these listed as sections. So if you're looking at the sections, that would be Bala 5 through 8. And then you'll read 9/16 through 15/22. And I'm not going to read through all of that. You can read it yourself. You also read some sections from the Ayodhya Khanda as well, which will be a much longer section right there. So what are you going to be reading about? First off, you're going to be reading about Rama's birth and coming of age. Let me detail a few important things from these sections. You're going to begin with Rama's childhood. This is from the online Bala Khanda, or the Narayan prologue in Rama's initiation. This is going to include the circumstances of his birth, his coming of age through a test with the sage Viswamitra, and his marriage to Sita. We're going to see that the good King Dasaratha does not have an heir. This is the initial problem of the work. The gods are going to consult together. They face the tyranny of the evil Ravana, who can only be destroyed by a human because of a boon or a gift he was granted by the gods because of his severe austerities that he went through a long time ago. We're going to see the human incarnation of Vishnu is Rama. So they decide, well, we can't kill him because we promised him that we would not harm him. But this did not include the fact that humans could potentially harm him. So they're going to make Vishnu come into existence as a human. So a god is going to be born as a human in order to start a new order. This may sound very similar to the Christian teachings of Christ being born as a human in order to accomplish a new covenant with people. And so in that same way, Vishnu is trying to protect his people. Is he trying to protect the human race and the world overall by being born as a human? Rama's character as a prince toward his subject. Let's see, we're going to begin to see after he's born, we're going to begin to see how he acts toward his subjects. Every time he sees his subjects, he asks, How are you? Are your children happy? Do you want any help from me? And they always answer, with you as our prince and your great father Dasarata as our guardian, we lack nothing. So we begin to see him act as an ideal king. And this work would have been read by kings and would have been taught to them as ways in which an ideal king should act toward his subjects, if indeed they're going to go along with their dharma. In this section, Rama's coming of age, or the initiation of Rama, we're introduced to sage Viswamitra. He was once a king, a conqueror, and a dreaded name until he renounced his kingly role and chose to become a sage, which he accomplished through severe austerities. So again, this theme of renunciation is emphasized. A person who, in the case of Viswamitra, is an ideal person who renounces his throne in order to become a sage. Austerities, this is like denying himself the physical pleasures of the world and stuff like that. And so he's represented as heroic in that sense. And he arrives at another king's palace, Dasarata, and he tells him that the young and unproven Rama is to come with him to battle evil demons. This is a divine purpose, but it's a test of Dasarata. It's a test to see if Dasarata is willing to follow the rules of the divine. It's a test of Dasarata to see if he is willing to renounce or show detachment from the things of this world. In this case here, the thing closest to him, his son, who is going to be his heir. And this reminds me always, every time I read it, of Abraham, who is asked to sacrifice his son Isaac without giving a clear reason. Notice how the sage is praised, who has mastery over his body. So Viswamitra is presented as having mastery over his body, as showing that he can that he doesn't have attachment to the pleasures of this world, and that is a great thing. We also are introduced to the fivefold evils, which are all themes within this work right here according to Hinduism, and it might remind you indeed of the 7 deadly sins in the Catholic tradition of lust, anger, miserliness, egoism, and envy. Many of these are among the 7 deadly sins. And we'll have different sections of the work that represent the dangers of these fivefold evils. So stay tuned for that. We see how Rama reacts as opposed to his father, who is seriously distressed by this. Rama, ever devoted to Dharma, follows Viswamitra without fear. Lakshmana joins him, ever at his side. So we're beginning to be introduced to the character of Rama and Lakshmana, and this is going to carry on into the coming chapters. Viswamitra tells them stories along the way, and these stories, if you pay attention to them, are meant to teach Rama how to resolve ethical dilemmas. And so Dharma is not always clear. So these stories and show the purpose of a good story is to teach people how to resolve ethical dilemmas, and as well as entertain. In this case, Rama is to destroy a woman who is turned into a monster because of her meanness, the Taka. Rama is told that he should not harm women. That is part of his duty. But her monstrosity has instead made it his duty to destroy her. So this monstrosity makes it instead his dharma to do. He needs to follow this dharma instead of the other. This dharma overpowers the other duty. He proves his strength and courage in doing so, and proves himself able to the test that's going to be facing him later of fighting the evil demon Ravana. We learn of Indra's lust in another story, which proves that even a god is subject to worldly desires and receive the consequences of karma. So looking forward at the chapter on 2 promises, which sets the stage for the core conflict of the Ramayana. These two promises involve Rama's delayed coronation as well as his exile. Dasaratha's decision to abdicate the throne in favor of Rama because he is perfect and will be a perfect ruler. We see that Dasaratha believes that Rama has compassion, a sense of justice and courage, and he makes no distinctions between human beings, old or young, prince or peasant. He has the same consideration for everyone. So all of these are things that an ideal king should have, and the story is meant to teach ideal kings the standard that they should live up to. But not just ideal kings, but also ideal leaders in modern day, for instance. In courage, valor, and all the qualities, none should equal him. He will be your best protector from any hostile force, be it human or subhuman or superhuman. There can be no place in a king's heart for lust, anger, or meanness. Those are among all of the fivefold evils. So that's why Dasaratha wants to abdicate the throne and give the crown to Rama. Dasaratha plans a rushed ceremony, though, because he's afraid of how fickle the human mind is. He knows that Bharata also has a claim to the throne, and he's afraid that will cause problems. So Dasaratha also speaks to Sita's duty as a wife to Rama, and Rama fulfills his duty as a son to a father, and he promises to carry out every word of his instructions, of his father's instructions, faithfully. So we see again Rama's character as well as Sita's character, and what that teaches us about how a wife should behave toward her husband, as well as how a son, Rama, should behave toward his father. Okay, my friends, looking at this chapter a little further, we'll see Dasaratha's other wife, Kaikeyi, and her son, Bharata, has a claim to the throne. And this is going to create conflict. Not at first, but we have a hunchback maid named Kuni who turns Kaikeyi away from her duty and inspires jealousy and fear in her. And these envy and fear are things that create bad things that happen. That's one reason why they're evil. But do note the backstory of Kuni, which Rama is involved in. You don't get this right here, but you get it later in the work in the section on when the rains cease. And you learn that Rama, who, even though he is presented as an ideal character in so many other ways, he does have some missteps. And one of his famous missteps is that when he was a kid, he made fun of Kuni because of her deformity. And because he did that, he fears that this is what inspires Kuni to take away the throne from him. And he's afraid that she had nursed her ill will all her life and found her opportunity for revenge when Dasaratha planned to enthrone him because of what he had done to her in the past, because he was rude and had made fun of her in the past. And that's a quote from page 106 in the Narayan translation. So maybe this is why Kuni turns Kaikeyi away from her duty and devotion to Rama and inspires jealousy and fear instead. Kuni plays on Kaikeyi's fears, speaking of the transience of her beauty and the favoritism that she faces. Kuni speaks of the fears of treachery that she has seen as well. Kaikeyi at first is attuned to her dharma as a dutiful wife and impartiality toward her sons. She sees Rama as her son, not as her stepson, as she is supposed to do, according to Hindu doctrine. But Kuni begins to turn her mind when Kuni speaks of Dasaratha's capability of cunning and treachery, and she harkens back to a story that Kaikeyi also knows. And then Dasaratha, as we have already learned, is keeping this secret from her because he fears a fickle mind. And once she discovers that, that amplifies her fears and makes Kuni's warning seem true. So Kuni demands Kakeyi ask Dasarata to fulfill two promises to her. So the backstory is long ago, Kakeyi had saved Dasarata's life, and so he had promised in return two promises to her. And this is going to be, Dasarata has a duty to fulfill those two promises. And Kuni persuades Kakeyi to make him promise her that Rama needs to go into exile for 14 years and that he will install Bharata on the throne. These two promises that Kakeyi demands of Dasarata and that he does not wish to grant, but he does because of his duty, set the stage for the rest of the conflict of the Ramayana. Rama is going to be exiled for 14 years, and his coronation is delayed as well. Look at the consequences of this action that defies Dharma. Dasarata dies of grief. Sita is eventually abducted by the evil Ravana. But fate, the power of Vishnu, and the cyclical nature of the universe have a way of transforming evil into good in the end. Because we see in the end, Ravana is destroyed and Rama is put on the throne eventually. Rama, attentive to his duty to his father, does as he commands without question. So Rama, ever the example of what somebody should do, assents to his duty. He says, I have no interest in kingship and no attachments to such offices and no aversion to a forced or ascetic existence for 14 years. Note that it's not that Rama is being lazy and doesn't wish to be a king. It's that he practices detachment and renunciation to pleasure. And being king is something, this like greed for fame, greed for power. Rama has none of that. And this is praised in the work. Rama then teaches his mother Kausalya and his brother Lakshmana about their duty to Dharma. So Kausalya is very distraught, as a good ideal mother should be, when she learns that her son is going to go out into the wilderness. This is a dangerous place. There's monsters out there. And she says she's worried about Rama and she wishes for him to be installed on the throne instead. But he consoles her. He says, he speaks to her duty and reminds her of that. He says, your place is beside your husband. You will have to comfort and nurse him. You must see that he is not sunk in sorrow by my exile. You cannot leave him now. You have a duty to your husband. And so this speaks of what the ancient Hindus believed a wife should do if she is an ideal wife. Dasarata is urged to practice detachment from Rama on page 49, but he is not appeased, and ultimately, because he is so attached to Rama, this causes his suffering. Detachment allows people to not suffer. He feels as if he is suffering from karma because he accidentally killed a young boy in his past, and so he is going to suffer likewise in a similar fashion by Rama being exiled. Rama urges his people to cease their weeping at this news and urges them to cease thoughts of rebellion and unrest. He serves as a preservative voice of order among what the villagers call the world has suddenly gone mad. So there's some bigger consequences involved in all of this. Rama realizes that, all of his people wish to rebel against Dasarata and his wish that Bharata be installed on the throne instead of Rama. But Rama realizes that this will cause a civil war, and he wishes to cease the unrest. He wishes to preserve the sanctity of the state and of the order of the king as being a good place. And so he sees the bigger picture of things. And so he tells them to be calm and trust in fate. Rama also calms Lakshmana, who says, I'll destroy everyone who opposes and pile up their carcasses sky high. I'll seize the crown and will not rest till I place it on Rama's head. So again, we see the dangers and the loss of life that's going to happen if indeed this rebellion sets out and they try to install Rama as king. But Rama says, please don't do that. He claims, in fact, it is his mistake that this is all happening. He says, I have only myself to blame for accepting my father's offer of the throne so readily without thinking of the consequences. He claims that some higher powers have decreed this fate. But Lakshmana contends that I'll be the fate to overpower fate itself. And he has martial arrogance, as it's portrayed right here. So a person who fights against fate, it is implied by this work, is a person who is arrogant and misguided. Again, if you don't know, Lakshmana is Rama's brother and constant faithful companion. Rama responds correctly, according to ancient Hindu beliefs, by saying, my privilege is renunciation. My privilege is renunciation, to renounce the throne, in the association of enlightened hermits in the forest. Is this anger, he's talking to Lakshmana here, is this anger which you have that seeks to destroy all firm relationships worth nurturing? So he sees that anger and the way in which it'll destroy relationships as being a bad thing that can cause all kinds of bad results, and he advises against it wisely. Now that he is calm, Lakshmana dutifully offers to follow his brother and protect him, and this is basically going to be his role from here on out. Sita, Rama's wife, also dutifully offers to follow Rama into the woods, even though he does not wish her to suffer and does not ask her to come. This is her character. We see her character in that she is willing to follow along. Bharata dutifully, to what he believes is fate, this is Rama's brother, renounces the throne, putting Rama's sandals on the throne to show that he is just a placeholder of the throne until Rama returns from exile. The narrator, in fact, says, in a world where we are accustomed to rivalries over possession, authority, and borders, and people clashing over the issue of ours or mine, not yours, it is rather strange to find two people debating whose the kingdom is not, and asserting yours, not mine. So this brings us to a close of the two promises section, and the next lecture that I'm going to do is going to focus on Rama's exile and his experiences in exile along with Sita and Lakshmana, and the dangers he faces in facing demons such as Shurpanaka, and Marika, and also we're going to see him ultimately face the evil Ravana, who abducts Sita and takes her back to his land of the Asuras, the demon Asuras. And gradually we're going to see how Rama gains back Sita from him after a long war with the help of Hanuman, who was enlisted after Rama took sides in the struggle between Vali and Sugriva. And we're going to see him get Sita back, but Sita has been potentially tainted by the fact that she's been associated with Ravana, and she has to prove her chastity by a trial through fire. And then we will see finally, of course, Sita winning that trial, and Rama is going to be finally installed as the rightful king and heir to the king Dasarata. But until we get there, I wish you all peace, love, and happiness.